right? So if I'm the inventor, I have to learn the language of VCs, I have to learn the language of private investors, I have to figure out how the stock exchange works, I have to understand academy, I have to understand economy, I have to understand public money, scientists, administrators. So all the onus is on me to become a Superman or a Wonder Woman. And all these agencies pay almost no attention to understanding the poor old inventor. They're there to criticize the inventor, judge his ideas or her ideas, and crucify them if they lose money for it, and take the compliment if the entrepreneur makes money. I think the infrastructure is in place, but the soft issues are who are the people within that, who are creating the experience and knowledge transfer, brokering the relationships. So if I want to see a VC investor, do I go directly to their office, or do I talk to you and you'll take me there? And how does it work? So I think that the ecosystem is institutional, and we need to find a way of getting the linkages made across there. But certainly, it's interesting you put inventor and not entrepreneur in the middle. And it's interesting you put scientist on the side and not in the middle. So it's already creating questions of who's doing what to whom.
Any other questions? Please.
I guess your work at Cambridge was difficult on one hand, easy on the other.
Yeah.
Please me correct if I'm wrong in any case. One, there's a good old school of doing science, where science doesn't touch the earth, and this overcoming the problem of the scientific ivory tower would be the difficult part. And I'm dealing with that, and as many colleagues of mine. Mm-hmm. So how did you deal with that? What worked for you, what didn't? And secondly, I'm working on as you call it, ecosystem. I'm trying to create entrepreneurship facilitation program in a provincial city of Poland. Do you have experiences in creating such programs in other environments than Cambridge? Because what could have been an easy part is the strong network that you were able to tap into.
Sure. So the first part of your question is how to deal with ivory tower research. And I guess I would say my personal values is long may that continue. I would never want ivory tower research to stop, because I think there's something about life, it should be there, just like football should be there, just like rugby should be there, like baseball. I don't know what that is, it's rounders I think for grown-ups, but nonetheless it should be there. And I think we just need the richness of life and diversity, and I hope there are always some scholars who are doing some really obscure things that don't make sense. And then, you know, at some point 150 years later, it all drops, the penny drops and something comes out of it. I was lovely conversation with an American who said, if Newton was in Silicon Valley, not in Cambridge, Newton was in Cambridge, he discovered gravity. If he was in Silicon Valley, he would have invented it. You know, so somebody's going to be sitting there thinking about gravity, you know, what functional purpose does it have at the time he was thinking about it? You know, I think this apple drops, yeah, great, so what? Now, you know, how do you function without that knowledge? So I hope, honestly, that people like that and people like Stephen Hawking wondering about the movement of time and so on, it's just lovely there are these sort of people around. And how many are there? About 1,000, 2,000 of them? They're certainly not doing us any damage. I don't mean just in Cambridge, I mean around the world, the really big stuff that's going on. On the other hand, we also need the big questions that make a change for society, for humanity. We do need people who work on malaria, who work on HIV, obesity, diabetes, you know, all of these sorts of medical issues, climate change, I keep talking about that, energy, etc., mass transport and so on and so forth, urbanization, rural migration, agriculture, food supplies. We need people who work on that stuff as well, and those are hugely important questions. So I think in the ecosystem overall, I'm happy to do with both. And if somebody wants to do ivory tower stuff and said, Shai, I'm not interested to talk to you, that's fine. We're very happy with that. I don't have a problem with it. But I prefer they tell me straight away and not waste my time. As far as the other question is concerned, which is, you know, how do we spread this all out, and where do we go to from here, and what experience have I got of taking it elsewhere? Well, interestingly, Enterprise Tuesday has been copied extensively, taken from our website. I'm happy to inform you the first people to copy it, literally cut and paste, was Oxford University. We know they did this because the spelling mistakes were there. So it was great fun. And then it's gone, you know, all over the place. And we put as much information as we can on the website so it can be taken. That's the easiest to copy because it doesn't require my resource. So other people have taken it. And I've been invited to, you know, places to talk about our experience, share it, work with people and so forth. I'm always open to a nice consultancy assignment. So, you know, being the pracker, influence, not the academic. But there are other ways of this information flowing and copying. So I'm on the advisory board of 2 institutions. I'm a visiting professor in 2 places, and people call me and do stuff. But equally, you know, come to Cambridge and see how it's done. Visit some of this. Laurea University in Finland took a 3-week boot camp for 20 of its students during October. So we had 20 Finnish students who were attending our free open course for 3 weeks or 3 evenings, and then doing their own thing for the rest of the days. And it's just astonishing change that took place in those young people. Absolutely fabulous to see that. To the extent that last week one flew all the way from Helsinki to Cambridge to listen to Karan Belimoria's lecture. And you listen to them now from when I first saw them in October and I saw them 2 weeks ago. And the change is transformational. So I think traveling is fantastic. And we're totally open to all that sort of stuff going on. It's like a big airport, Cambridge. So there are ways. I do have experience. It does work. Small steps. We need our politicians on side. We need the senior decision makers in university on side. We need to build a community, as Camille is doing with the, you know, embracing the whole program. One of the benefits of something like a CambridgePYTHON program is because it's got a rhythm to it, an annual rhythm, it's actually easier for people to engage in it. The venture capitalists, the investors, the business community, etc. So I really strongly commend the replication of that kind of rhythmic approach, not just a random thing, because it's very difficult randomly to make things happen. So again, a long answer, but maybe it's...
So you already mentioned about what I would like to ask you, namely maybe question regarding history. When you started with your activity or your colleagues, how many people, how many scientists from Cambridge was for this activity, that namely that pure science should be as near as possible to the business, and how this how amount of people changed, namely if initially 90% was against, how it changed during the time, because now it looks that why not?
Yes.
Probably more should be for, but the question is about history. Could you, a few sentences about this story?
Sure. I think even to this day, the breakthrough in Cambridge, I think, was tied to this, the Cambridge University's technology transfer policy, IP policy. That was a big topic. Went on for many years, but it resolved itself about 2 years ago. And that was the hottest debate. I mean, a really heated debate. And there's a Professor Ross Anderson is in the computer labs, of course, all for open source and so on. And they have other professors who were from the biotech side, Professor David Secker, who was head of tech transfer. So the battle zones were enormous. And a few people are still totally against this. But the interesting thing is, you know, you can't put entrepreneurs in a box. They leak out. They will find ways around. That's the beauty. I think every environment where things are happening that are different, there is an entrepreneur somewhere nearby making that happen. And I think that from 1960, so this, if I had to show you more maps, were 3 ex-Cambridge students who came to set up a company called Cambridge Consultants Limited to take the brain